one of the most eloquent orators to grace Parliament, whose life has been interspersed by moments of triumph and tumult. Retired Major Okwiri Rwabwoni joined the rough and tumble of elective politics in 2001. But his eventual arrest and later exile in Scotland perhaps kept him out of touch with the events in the country. With the help of his brother, the late charismatic UPDF officer Brigadier Noble Mayombo, Okwiri, like the prodigal son, returned home. However, barely after he came home, his brother passed away, a death that spawned conspiracies. On the spot tonight is Major Okwiri Rwabwoni. Retired Major Okwiri Rwabwoni on the spot. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for inviting me, Patrick, and good evening, viewers.
Since your return, you have kept a low profile, and one would wonder what happened to the firebrand Okwiri Rwabwoni that could cause earthquakes in the 6th Parliament. Why are you hibernating?
Well, one is that I've grown older and wiser, and I've come to realize that the political debate, the political conversation in Uganda is more scoring points, political ping pong, rather than addressing the issues, the salient issues that have led to the challenges in governance that we face as a country right now. So the work I've been doing of late is more research based. At the same time, I'm trying to put forward people who are younger than me to articulate these issues and also get a chance to represent people. In any case, I'm no longer in elective politics. So the spotlight of the media is not on me because I'm not in elective politics. But I've not been quiet, as you say, because I've been doing research work, I've been traveling, and I've been trying to create platforms for these young people I'm talking about to be able to articulate what I would otherwise be fronting as a legislator.
So you're saying sometimes what you were doing in 2006 was that theatrics? Didn't have research work? Was that?
No, I was a member of parliament.
Playing for the gallery? I
was a member of parliament. A member of parliament addresses a plenary. A member of parliament is always on the media spotlight. But right now, I am heading a research-based civil society organization that deals with intricate matters of constitutional development. A constitutional watchdog that deals with constitutional literacy, that deals with the role of young people in building a culture of constitutionalism, that deals with research on some critical areas of the Constitution, like land, gender, and other issues that are critical to constitutional development. And by looking at various laws, other smaller laws, lesser laws, like the Penal Code, and comparing them with the fundamental law, which is the Constitution, and seeing if there is any discrepancy between the two.
Which brings me to think that your role,
so that work, so that kind of work in our media spaces. By the way, we are being edged out by evangelicals, Premiership football, and
which brings me to believe that your work,
it's boring work for the media.
It can't be boring because it's a docket that is so crucial and fundamental for Uganda. When you talk about constitutional governance and things like that, and yet many people think that we are no longer on the path of constitutional governance, as it were, then the likes of Okwiri Rwabwoni and the people you're working with, this is the time when you should be, making noise, or we should be hearing you.
Then I throw it back to you in the media. What are you interested in covering? Because you set the agenda. If your agenda is music, these young artists, if your agenda is covering right-wing evangelical Christians, if your agenda is Premiership English football, who are we to dictate the agenda? So the media also has a challenge prioritizing what is critical for national development. Is it constitutional rule? Is it institutional building? Is it... take, for example, the issue of youth unemployment. I consider it to be a very important element of our development and a crisis, in fact. Take, for example, the issues of land. In my opinion, land is the most litigated issue in Uganda at present. More than 70% of the cases in court right now in Uganda are over land. It's a question of land fragmentation. We have the most obnoxious and backward land tenure system in the world here in Uganda. So, it's upon you in the media to prioritize. What are you going to cover?
Now, you work for Center for Constitutional Governance, right? And one of the pillars you want to raise is the Article 4 of the Constitution, which is, I suppose, to translate the Constitution in local languages everybody can understand. And how would the people of Uganda be held to account if they don't follow the Constitution, yet the Constitution is not in a language they can read? So, civil society like you, what is it that you've done to help in that agenda so that then you can say that the people of Uganda can hold their government to account because they know the law, they have read it in their language?
Yes, Patrick, when we were crafting the Center for Constitutional Governance, that was at the back of our mind, that the Constitution should cease to be a lawyer's document, but be a people's document, so that we remove it, first of all, from legal lexicon and digest it and make it easier for the man on the street to understand. That is stage one. The text of the Constitution should be simple enough for the ordinary Ugandan on the street to understand. Then the second stage would be, as prescribed by Article 4 of the Constitution, the second stage should be to translate it into the local languages so that people can learn it. And then, after reading the text, there is the second phase, which is constitutionalism, because there is theory and practice. You can have a constitution, you understand it, you've read it, but do you practice it? Or do those in power practice it? That's the most critical part. Because there are many people in government, attorneys general, ministers of justice, legislators in parliament, who can really break down the Constitution and they understand it. But when it comes to practice, which is constitutionalism, constitutionalism refers to the culture of practicing the rule of law.
Is it happening in Uganda today?
I'm afraid there is a lot that we have got to do.
Let me get back to you, Major Okwiri Rwabwoni, as a person. Your brother, the late Brigadier Noble Mayombo, died on May 1st, 2007, suspiciously. The president sanctioned a probe. You, as part of the family, have you received the findings of this probe?
Well, I have answered this question so many times in print media. I remember I talked about it in the Monitor, the Observer.
Well, this is a different forum.
Okay, for the record, the family has never received that report, and we're still waiting.
In around 2001, your arrest went into the annals of history. I mean, the way how it was done was tumultuous at Entebbe Airport. And you are so close to Dr. Kiiza Besigye. If you can take us exactly what happened at that time when you got bundled off the vehicle and put in another vehicle and taken away. If you can relive for us that moment, exactly what happened, because that is what most people remember you, not only that, but most likely the last political act you did before you went to exile.
Is it the actions or the issues, Patrick?
Both of them.
The issues were that at that time, our view was that the movement, as an organization, that's the way we understood it, was supposed to be a transitory phase of our political development. So that from there, people would be allowed to gravitate to various ideologies. So there was a question within the movement whether we had reached crossroads where people now would be allowed to take their different ideological paths or remain under one umbrella. And some of us who had been vocal, like you say, on issues like corruption and other issues relating to governance, felt that our voices were not being listened to. That's how we ended up with Dr. Besigye. And I believe that the issues we are talking about then are still relevant now. That's my firm belief. So I tried using very many avenues: caucus, National Executive Committee of the movement, and the other organs. I was a member, senior member of the movement, because I was, by virtue of being a member of parliament. But I could not get through. So we sat down, and the final decision was taken by us that maybe we should front somebody who would articulate a different way of tackling our problems. And that's how we came up with Dr. Kiiza Besigye in 2001.
Major Okwiri Rwabwoni, at that time you are very close to Dr. Kiiza Besigye. And do you still consult him? Are you still close?
Yeah, we are very close, family, friends, and he's a remarkable man. He's a resilient politician. Whenever I interact with him, I learn a lot of things. African politics is turbulent terrain. So for somebody to survive as long as he has done is quite remarkable. And I have a lot of respect for him.
You still share the same ideology, of the same kind of thinking of how Uganda should be governed?
Absolutely, absolutely. Because Besigye's idea has been, in my opinion, institutionalization. That political power should be devolved. That parliament, that in a modern democracy, parliament should have its role, the judiciary should have its role, civil society should have its role. The constitution should clearly stipulates those roles. Traditionally, it does. Local government, decentralization of power, and also accountability. And where accountability means prioritization, especially in regard to budgetary issues. Where does the national wealth go? Education, health, roads, defense. How do we mark out our priorities as a nation? So I was very much impressed by the way he articulated these ideas. In the CA, I consulted him when I was a member of parliament in the 6th parliament, and he has been quite consistent up to now on those issues.
We're going to take a break, and when we come back, I just want to ask retired Major Okwiri Rwabwoni. In 2001, he felt threatened and he went to exile, but he returned. What has changed since then? Don't go away.